At 21 years old, Princess of the Empire stood on the highest balcony of the Crystal Citadel, staring at the vast sky that shimmered in shades of violet and silver. Every night she came here, not for beauty, not for comfort, but for escape. She felt trapped behind layers of royal rules, duties, and traditions she had never chosen. People bowed when she walked past, but nobody truly listened when she spoke. She was admired like a rare jewel, beautiful, cold, untouchable, but she never wanted to be a jewel. She wanted to be alive. Her empire called humans reckless, unpredictable, and simple, but never believed that. Since childhood, she had studied the stories of Earth, stories of humans who dared, created, loved, fought, and dreamed. They failed often, yet rose again. She that kind of freedom. On her own world, one mistake meant disgrace. For humans, mistakes simply meant trying again. And so, on that quiet evening, while the twin moons glowed over her, she made a dangerous choice, one that could change her life forever. She decided to join the secret diplomatic exchange program with Earth, a program forbidden to royal blood. Only citizens, not royalty, were allowed to travel, but was tired of being told what she could not be. She disguised herself as a palace scholar, erased her identity from the travel logs, and boarded a ship meant for cultural observers. For the first time in her life, she stepped into a starship without guards or restrictions. Her heart raced as the engines hummed beneath her feet. She had no idea what awaited her on Earth. She only knew she wanted to meet the species everyone feared yet underestimated. The journey took 3 days, and each day she felt more alive. She learned human languages, watched their history unfold on a screen, and wondered if she would ever have the courage humans seem to carry so naturally. She had crossed the stars, yet her own fears whispered that she did not belong among them. When the ship finally landed on Earth, she stepped out into a world filled with wind, warmth, and smells she had never experienced before. Her lungs trembled with the scent of soil and rain. Everything felt sharper, louder, more real. For the first time in her life, nothing separated her from the world around her. But Earth was not as peaceful as she had imagined. A sudden explosion echoed from across the research base. Shouts filled the air. Smoke curled from a damaged building as alarms blared. Froze, uncertain what to do, she had never seen chaos unfold so close before. Her world was controlled, Earth was raw. She was about to retreat when she saw someone running toward the fire, not away from it. A young man, human, wearing a uniform smudged with dirt. He didn't hesitate. He didn't look back. He just charged into the smoke as if fear had no power over him. Felt her feet move before her mind caught up. She followed him through the haze, feeling heat sting her skin. Inside the ruined building, he was trying to lift a fallen beam off another researcher. His arms shook, his breath rasped, but he refused to stop. "Help me," he shouted when he spotted her. His voice wasn't commanding. It was hopeful, like he believed she could make a difference. She had never been asked for help before. She had only ever been served, protected, and sheltered. Yet at that moment, she didn't think about who she was. She only thought about what needed to be done. Together, they pushed the beam aside. The man pulled the injured researcher out and carried him to safety. Only when they were outside did he collapse to the ground, chest rising and falling in heavy breaths. Knelt beside him, unsure why her chest felt so tight. "You're not from here," he said between breaths, studying her strange clothing, her shimmering skin patterns. "But you helped anyway." She didn't know how to respond. No one had ever looked at her with gratitude instead of reverence. He smiled at her, tired, genuine, warm, and something inside her shifted. "My name's," he said softly. "Glad you made it to Earth." Didn't speak. She only felt the weight of her choice settling into her bones. She had taken a risk coming here. But in that one moment, she sensed that this single decision might shape her fate far more deeply than she ever imagined. Had met many people in her life, but never someone like. The morning after the explosion, she found him sitting outside the Earth Research Station, staring at the sunrise as if it were the most important thing in the world. He didn't notice her approach. His eyes were fixed on the horizon where soft, golden light spilled over the clouds. No guards stood around him. No servants rushed to meet his needs. He was alone, peaceful, and strangely content. Felt something tighten in her chest. She had never seen someone so free. When he finally glanced her way, he gave a small smile that looked natural on him. "Princess?" he asked carefully, unsure if he should guess. She shook her head quickly. "Not princess." She had to protect her identity. If Earth knew royalty was here without permission, it would spark trouble between their worlds. Didn't press, he simply nodded, accepting her answer. That surprised her. On her planet, people questioned everything she said, but only to please the court. By contrast, respected silence. "You saved someone yesterday," she said softly. "So did you." His reply was simple, but it warmed her more than she expected. Humans saw her differently, not as a symbol, not as royalty, just as someone standing beside them. They walked together along the edge of the base. Earth's wind brushed against her skin, carrying scents of trees, metal, and something sweet she couldn't name. She felt like a child discovering the world again. "So," said, glancing at her with curiosity, "why did you come to Earth? Not many aliens visit without an escort." Her heart skipped. She searched for a safe answer. "To learn." He raised a brow. "From us?" "Yes," she whispered. "Your people live differently." Laughed quietly. "That's a kind way to say we're messy." She liked that he could laugh at himself. He didn't carry the weight of a perfect image. He didn't try to impress her. He simply existed as he was. As they walked further, she watched humans moving around the base, repairing damaged equipment, arguing, helping one another, joking even while frustrated. Emotions were open, uncensored, honest. Her own world punished such openness. "You look overwhelmed," said gently. "I am surprised," she admitted. "Your people show everything: anger, fear, hope, pride." "That's life," he said. "We don't hide it. Maybe we should sometimes, but we don't." Wondered what life would be like if she could say what she felt instead of wearing a mask created for her since birth. She wondered if she could ever be that brave. Later that day, the base director called a meeting for all off-world visitors. Joined in the assembly hall, taking a seat in the back where she hoped no one would notice her glowing patterns under the dim lights. The director's voice echoed through the room. "We have evidence that yesterday's explosion was not an accident," he announced. "Someone targeted the xenobiology lab." Murmurs spread instantly. Sensed tension ripple through the room. She pressed her palms together to steady herself. Leaned closer and whispered, "You okay?" She nodded, just listening. But she was. She was remembering old warnings from home. Humans act without thinking. They fight even when peace is possible. She had never believed those warnings until now, when fear twisted in her chest. The director continued, "We need volunteers to help secure the perimeter until the investigation is complete." Raised his hand immediately. Stared at him. He had nearly died yesterday, yet he volunteered again without hesitation. After the meeting ended, she walked beside him, unable to hide her concern. "Why do you risk yourself again?" "Because someone has to," he said, adjusting his gear. "And because the people here matter." She hesitated. "Do I matter?" She hadn't planned to ask that. It slipped out on its own. For a moment she regretted it until she saw the way paused, truly thinking about the question. "Yes," he said simply, "you do." Felt her heartbeat stumble. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not with duty, not with expectation, just truth. Continued walking, but she stayed still, trying to calm the storm inside her. She had come to Earth to learn about humans, yet she found herself learning about herself instead. Later that evening, watched from afar as he spoke with other volunteers. He laughed, shared plans, and treated every person equally. She saw no hierarchy in their interactions, no bowing, no fear, just respect and trust earned, not demanded. For the first time in her life, she wished she could be part of something like that. And as the night grew colder, she realized something unexpected. The risk she took leaving her world was beginning to feel like destiny calling her forward. Night settled over the Earth base like a heavy blanket. The lights along the perimeter flickered in the wind, and guards patrolled with tense steps. Everyone felt the weight of the attack, unsure who had caused it or why. Stood near the observation deck, watching the mixture of stars and city lights fade into the distance. Her thoughts kept returning to He was somewhere outside the main gate, volunteering for the night patrol. She didn't understand why she worried for him. She barely knew him, yet she felt drawn to the way he moved through the world, with honesty, with courage, without fear of imperfection. On her, such a person would have been considered reckless, but here, such a person was respected. A gentle voice broke her thoughts. "You're not resting." She turned to see an older human woman, doctor, one of the station's lead researchers. Had sharp eyes softened by kindness, the type of person who could read emotions without asking questions. "I cannot sleep," admitted. "Everything feels uncertain." "That's life on Earth," sighed. "But uncertainty is where we grow." Lowered her gaze. "Your people are brave, even in danger." Smiled. "Brave. Most of us are terrified. We just keep going anyway." Considered that, on her planet showing fear meant weakness. On Earth it meant being human. Studied her quietly. "You've taken an interest in." Stepped back slightly, startled. He helped me understand your world." "And you worry for him?" added with gentle certainty. Didn't answer, but the silence was enough. "He's a good one," said. "Strong heart, too stubborn sometimes, just like your kind," she added with a playful wink. Blinked. "My kind. People who care more than they admit." Before could reply, the base alarm rang again, short and sharp this time, signaling unauthorized movement outside the perimeter. Fear shot through her. "Is out there," she whispered. Didn't stop her when she ran. Rushed through the corridors, her breath uneven, her hands trembling. She didn't know what she would do once she reached the gate, but her heart pushed her forward with a force she couldn't ignore. Outside, the wind howled over the sandy ground. Searchlights swung across the fields. A squad of guards surrounded a damaged drone lying in the dust. Not the cause of the explosion, but something that had crashed too close for comfort. Scanned the scene wildly, until she saw kneeling beside the drone, inspecting its cracked shell. She hurried toward him. "Are you hurt?" He looked up, surprised but relieved. "What are you doing out here?" "I heard the alarm," she said, trying to steady her voice. "I thought." She stopped herself. She didn't want to sound foolish. "You thought something happened to me," he finished gently. Her cheeks warmed. "Yes." He smiled, and for the first time she saw exhaustion behind his eyes. "I'm fine, just checking this old drone. Someone hacked it and sent it straight at us." "Why?" whispered. "We don't know yet, but—" He stood up, brushing dust off his hands. "I think yesterday's explosion wasn't meant to destroy the base. It was meant to scare us." Felt a chill. Who would do that? Shook his head. Could be extremists, could be smugglers, could be someone who doesn't want aliens here. She froze. "Because of me." "No," said quickly. "Not you alone. Some people fear what they don't understand." Lowered her eyes. She understood that too well. On her world, people feared humans the same way. Gently touched her shoulder, a gesture so warm and grounding that she forgot how to breathe. "Hey, don't worry, we're handling it." "You always say that," she murmured, "even when you are afraid." Laughed softly. "That's what humans do. We keep moving. Fear doesn't get to decide everything." She wished she could be like that. As they walked back toward the main building, the wind calmed, and the stars above seemed brighter than before. Walked beside her, silent but steady, like a presence she could rely on. At the entrance, he paused. "You know, when the explosion happened yesterday, I thought I was done for, but you ran into the fire with me." "I only did what felt right," she whispered. "Maybe," he said, "but it meant something to me." His heart fluttered. She wanted to say more, but words failed her. Instead, she looked at him with a quiet sincerity that came from a place she hadn't explored before. "Good night," he said. "Good night." She watched him leave, each step echoing loudly in her thoughts. She had come to Earth seeking knowledge, but what she found was far more dangerous, something growing inside her heart, something she wasn't sure she could control. And she sensed that this feeling, whatever it was, would change the course of both their lives, long before either of them understood how deep it would go. For the next few days, tension hung over the Earth base like a storm waiting to break. Everyone worked cautiously, speaking in quiet tones, watching the sky for signs of another attack. But even with danger close, something warm grew between and slow, gentle, impossible to ignore. Tried to keep her distance at first. She reminded herself that she was hiding her identity. She reminded herself that she had no right to let a bond form. But whenever she saw his tired smile after a long patrol or heard his laugh echo down the corridor, her resolve weakened. On the fourth evening, when the sky glowed orange with sunset, found her sitting on the grass behind the base, her legs folded neatly, her eyes following the drifting clouds. "You always sit alone," said as he approached. "Mind some company." Shook her head. "No, I like when you come." Sat beside her close enough that their shoulders almost touched, but not quite. The air felt warm between them. "You know," said softly, "you're different from the other visitors." Tensed, different, how? "You watch everything," he replied. "Not with fear, not with judgment, more like you're trying to understand." She hesitated. "Your people fascinate me." Chuckled. "Trust me, we're not that impressive." "You are," she insisted. "You live with emotion, you speak your mind, you fight even when logic says you should lose." He glanced at her, expression softening. "And your people do." She looked down at her hands. "My world values perfection, order, control. I grew up learning how to stand, how to smile, how to speak. Every part of life follows strict rules." "That sounds hard." "It is," she whispered. "I envy humans, you don't hide what you feel." Watched her with a tenderness that made her heart ache. "You don't have to hide with me." Those words struck something inside her, something deep, something fragile. Before she could respond, a security officer ran toward them. "Director needs you right now, it's urgent." Rose instantly. "What happened?" The officer swallowed hard. "We found something, a message, a warning." They followed him to the command room, where the director stood with several officers gathered around a holographic display. A small metal chip lay on the table. "This was attached to the drone that crashed last night," the director said. "We finally cracked it." A distorted voice played from the device. "Remove the alien visitor, or more will fall." Felt her blood run cold. His fists tightened. "Someone is threatening her specifically." The director nodded. "We believe whoever attacked the base has been watching movements closely. They noticed you arrived without official escort, and now they want you gone." His breath shook. She knew this danger was not Earth's fault. This was the risk she took by running away from her world. But seeing humans threatened because of her made guilt twist in her chest. "I should leave," she whispered. Turned to her instantly. "No, absolutely not. I am putting your people in danger." "You didn't cause this," insisted. "Fear did. Whoever's behind this is targeting you because they think you're alone, but you're not." His voice was steady, stronger than she had ever heard it, but the director looked worried. The director said carefully, "We need to know the truth. Who exactly are you? Why would someone go to these lengths to remove you?" All eyes turned to her. She felt as though the walls were closing in. She couldn't lie anymore, not when humans were risking their lives because of her. She took a shaky breath. "I am not a simple visitor. I am princess of the Empire." The room fell silent. Blinked, stunned. "Princess?" Lowered her gaze. "Yes, I came here in secret. My people do not allow royalty to travel without permission. I wanted to understand your world. I never expected danger to follow me." The director exhaled, rubbing her temples. "This complicates everything." Stepped between the director and his expression fierce. "Her title doesn't change who she is. She's still the person who saved someone's life, and I'm not letting anything happen to her." Stared at him, her heart trembling. No one, not on her world, not in her entire life, had ever stood for her like that. Not because of status, not because of duty, but because he cared. The director studied then. "If we're going to protect you, we need a plan, and we need it fast." Felt fear, hope, and guilt swirl inside her like a storm. She had crossed the stars searching for freedom, yet now her presence endangered the very people who showed her the meaning of it. As the night deepened and the base prepared for possible attack, realized one truth with painful clarity. Her fate was now tangled with a human's, and the next decisions she made would change both their worlds forever. The base transformed overnight. Security doubled. Drones hovered above the fences. Armed patrols moved in pairs. Everyone knew something terrible was coming, though no one knew from where. And in the center of that tense storm stood, heart heavy, unsure if she should stay or disappear before more humans were endangered. But didn't leave her side. He stayed with her during every briefing, walked with her through every hallway, and sat with her during every quiet moment when fear threatened to take hold. Wanted to tell him to step away, to protect himself, to go back to the safe life he once had. But every time she opened her mouth to say it, she found herself unable to. Not when he looked at her with such steady determination. On the morning of the 5th day, a message came through the security channels. A coded broadcast, short but clear. She leaves today, or your base burns tonight. Felt her throat tighten. These threats were becoming bolder. Whoever wanted her gone no longer cared about hiding. Slammed his fist on the table. They can't keep doing this. Why target her? Why now? The director motioned for him to calm down. We're doing everything we can, but their target is the princess. They won't stop until they get what they want. Stood quietly, hands folded, trying not to let her fear show. Then I must leave, she said. This is no longer about my choice. It is about your safety. No, turned to her sharply. Leaving won't solve anything. They'll just follow you. That is my burden, she whispered. And we share it, he answered. You're not alone. Looked into his eyes. There was something in his gaze, something fierce, something human, that made her chest ache. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to stay. But the guilt of bringing danger to Earth pressed down on her like a weight she couldn't lift. Before she could speak again, an alarm blared through the base. Deep, urgent, unmistakable. Not a drill, not a warning. An attack had begun. The ground shook as something crashed near the western gate. People ran through the corridors, shouting orders. Pulse pounded in her ears. Grabbed her wrist. Stay with me. He led her through the base as lights flickered and dust rained from the ceiling. They reached the command room, where screens displayed the chaos outside. Unmarked ships hovering above the desert, dropping mechanical pods that skittered across the sand like metal insects. The director cursed. They're not from Earth. These aren't human attackers. Breath caught, she recognized the technology, sleek, fast, and far too advanced. No, it cannot be. But she already knew. The attackers were from her own empire. Stared at her. Your people sent them. Not my people, she whispered in horror. My uncle. The room froze. Stepped back, gripping the edge of the table. Memories flooded her, her uncle, Lord, always whispering about tradition, purity, and power. He hated humans. He hated any connection between species. She had thought him strict, but she had never imagined this. He believes humans are beneath us, she said with trembling voice. He would rather destroy a base than allow me to learn from your world. So he's here to take you back by force? The director asked. Closed her eyes. Yes, and he will not leave without me. For a moment the room fell into heavy silence, then stepped in front of her, as if forming a shield with his own body. He's not taking you, said voice steady. Not while we're here. Shook her head. You cannot fight my uncle, his soldiers. We've faced threats before, he said, and we don't abandon our own. Breath caught. I am not one of you. Gentle hand lifted her chin. You became one of us the moment you risked your life for people you didn't even know. Her eyes burned, tears gathering at the edges, not of fear, but of something far deeper. The director spoke quickly. We need a plan. They want the princess alive, which means they won't destroy the base completely. That gives us time. Turn to, tell us, what does your uncle value most? Power, control, image? Control, she whispered. He believes ruling is his birthright. He hates anything unpredictable, especially humans. Lips curved into a determined smile. Good, then unpredictability is our greatest weapon. Stared at him, at this human who stood in the path of an empire for her sake. She felt fear for him, for the base, for everything that mattered to her now. But above that fear, something else rose, something she didn't know how to name yet. The sky outside thundered as enemy ships descended lower. The war she never wanted had finally reached her. And the choice she made, to run to Earth, to meet humans, to meet, was now shaping the fate of more than just one world. The sky above the desert glowed with the red light of enemy engines, watched from the command room window as the ships hovered like dark, silent predators. Her heart pounded so loudly that she barely heard the officers shouting commands around her. She had always feared her uncle's influence, but she had never imagined he would cross galaxies just to drag her home. Stood beside her, steady and unshaken, even as the floor trembled from the force of another landing pod hitting the sand. "They're surrounding the base," said. "They want to scare us." Wrapped her arms around herself. "They want me." "Then they'll deal with us first," he said firmly. Turned toward him, eyes filled with fear and something painfully tender. "You do not understand who my uncle is. He does not negotiate. He does not show mercy." "Then he'll learn what humans do," answered, jaw tight. Before she could respond, a large holographic display flickered to life in the center of the room. A towering figure appeared, Lord. His sharp silver eyes and cold expression sent a chill through his entire body. "Princess," he said, his voice low and poisonous, "you have shamed your bloodline." His breath hitched. "Uncle, please listen. You abandoned your sacred duty. You left your empire without permission, and now you hide among these primitive beings." His gaze swept across the room, dripping with contempt. Stepped forward. "She didn't hide, she learned, something you clearly fear." Sighs narrowed. "Human, you dare speak to me." Didn't step back, he didn't waver. "Someone should." A murmur rippled through the human soldiers. His lip curled. "You protect her, why? For admiration, for advantage, or for something even more foolish?" His heart hammered painfully. She wanted to protect from the cruel words she knew were coming. Answered calmly, "I protect her because she deserves a choice." His voice hardened. "Her choice is irrelevant. She belongs to the Empire." Felt something inside her break. All her life she had been told she belonged to tradition, to rules, to expectations she never wanted. But words lingered in her mind. "You deserve a choice." She lifted her chin. "I belong to myself." His expression turned ice cold. "Then you are lost." The hologram vanished. Alarms blared again as more enemy pods landed. Metal legs unfolded as soldiers spilled out, black armor disciplined, deadly. Humans rushed out to form a defensive line, weapons ready, voices tight with fear but refusing to retreat. Turned to her, "We're moving you to the safe bunker." "No," she said, grabbing his arm. "My uncle will break through any wall. You must not risk your life for me." "You think I'm leaving you?" said quietly. "Not happening, not today, not ever." Her breath caught, but before she could reply, the director shouted, "Positions, we have incoming." The first wave of alien soldiers charged. Humans fired, the ground shook. Sparks exploded across the sand. The noise sounded like thunder tearing open the sky. Watched in horror as the two species clashed, her world against the world she had chosen. She saw fighting at the front, moving with fierce determination, protecting the soldiers behind him. Every strike he made felt like a strike against the chains she had lived under her whole life. She couldn't just stand and watch. Without hesitation, she activated the small silver device hidden on her wrist. A shimmering shield formed around her, glowing with energy. She sprinted toward the battlefield, ignoring the shouts behind her. "AELIRA!" cried out. She reached him just as an enemy soldier aimed a stun blade at his back. Threw her shield forward, creating a barrier that knocked the attacker off his feet. Stared at her breathless. "You shouldn't be here." "I will not leave you," she said fiercely. "Not while I can fight." For the first time, looked at her not as someone to protect, but as someone fighting beside him. They stood back to back as enemy troops closed in. She moved with elegant precision, her energy shield bending light in arcs of silver. Fought with raw strength, every strike filled with stubborn human courage. Despite their resistance, the next wave of soldiers emerged, larger, stronger, carrying heavy stun cannons. The ground quaked. A blast slammed into the sand, throwing and off balance. Fell to one knee, vision spinning. Grabbed her, "Are you hurt?" "No," she breathed, "but my uncle, he will come himself." Steadied her voice low, "Then we'll face him together." Felt tears sting her eyes, not from fear, but from the overwhelming truth settling in her heart. She had come to Earth seeking freedom. Instead, she had found something even greater. Someone who saw her not as a princess, but as a person. The final enemy ship lowered toward the battlefield, larger than the rest, her uncle's personal vessel. A shadow fell over them as the ramp opened, revealing Lord himself. The moment had come. The clash of worlds was no longer a distant threat. It stood before them, cold, powerful, unyielding. And knew. This was the moment that would define the fate she could no longer run from. The great hall of the palace had never been so silent. For centuries, it had echoed with the steps of proud nobles and the songs of victory celebrations. But now, as and Princess walked through its shining doors, every sound seemed to freeze. Every eye turned to them. Every breath felt heavy. Could feel the pressure on his shoulders. His clothing, simple compared to the noble robes around him, made him stand out even more. Yet walked with calm grace, her hand wrapped around his arm. She strengthened him with her touch. She had chosen him, trusted him, and risked everything for him. He could not fail her now. The council sat on elevated seats made of glowing silver. Their tall figures, covered in ceremonial cloaks, watched the couple approach. Their expressions were cold, unreadable, almost carved from stone. But behind their stillness sensed fear. Not fear of him, but fear of change, fear of losing control. Stepped forward first. Her voice, steady and clear, cut through the tense air. "Honored Council," she said, "the war can end today, all of it. No more battles, no more blood on our soil or Earth skis, but the price is simple. We must accept a path none expected." Her words echoed beneath the tall crystal pillars. Stood beside her, silent but strong. He knew the council was waiting for him to speak, to prove himself worthy in their eyes, but was not finished. "I was chosen to lead the treaty," she continued. "I sought cooperation, I expected duty, but instead," she glanced at the smallest, softest moment of warmth spreading through her gaze. "Instead, I found someone who changed everything, a human who refused to leave me behind, a human who risked death to protect even those who hated him." A murmur ran through the hall. Swallowed hard, he wasn't afraid, not anymore. He stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "I didn't fight for glory," he said. "I didn't fight to win your throne or your power. I fought because was willing to die for peace. I couldn't let someone like her stand alone, not when I could stand beside her." Some council members whispered among themselves. Others glared. But one, the oldest member, watched with deep curiosity. Princess spoke again. "The choice today is simple. If the council accepts our union, Earth, and will join as allies, a new age will begin. If they refuse, then both worlds will return to war." The words struck the council like a blade. Saw their reactions: shock, anger, disbelief, fear. He stepped forward once more. "If you want to judge me," he said, "judge me for what I've done. Judge me for pulling your soldiers from the fire when the enemy attacked. Judge me for saving your people. Judge me for choosing peace over revenge." His voice softened. "Don't judge me for being human." For a long time, no one spoke. The hall felt frozen in time. Even the light drifting from the crystal ceiling seemed still. Then the oldest council member rose slowly. His deep voice carried through the hall like a distant storm. "For centuries," he began, "we believed humans were reckless, weak, chaotic. But this human," he looked at with a long, thoughtful gaze, "this one has shown courage many of our own lack." The hall remained silent as he continued. "Princess has always acted with wisdom. If she believes this union will save our worlds, then I will not stand in her way." Other council members stared at him, shocked. But one by one, hesitantly, several nodded. Some nodded out of respect for. Some nodded out of exhaustion from war. Some nodded simply because they saw no better path. Finally, the last counselor, a stern woman draped in dark blue, stood. "I do not trust humans," she said coldly. "But I trust our princess, and I trust her bravery, so I will accept her decision." Let out a slow breath she had been holding. Her fingers tightened around's hand. The council lifted their hands together. The hall glowed with white light, a sign of acceptance. "It is done," the oldest counselor declared. "The princess will marry the human, and the war ends today." A wave of emotion rushed through, relief, disbelief, joy, and something deeper. Looked up at him, her eyes shimmering. "You changed everything," she whispered. Shook his head gently. "No, we changed everything." And in that shining hall, surrounded by the weight of two worlds, they sealed not a victory, but the beginning of a future no one thought possible.